All right. Thank you. Oh, there we go. Thank you all for joining us this evening. We appreciate your time and input into Empower Baton Rouge. We will get started momentarily to allow folks to join and get settled. Please note this session is being recorded and will be made available on the study website once the meeting has ended so that we can share any of the valuable input and questions that we received tonight. At the end of the presentation, we will have time for questions. You can send in your questions by using the Q&A feature located at the bottom of your screen. During the Q&A session, you may request to make verbal question or comment by using the raise your hand feature found at the bottom of the Q&A button. We will call on participants in the order that we see your hand. All participants will remain on mute unless called upon to provide a verbal comment or question. Please note the chat feature for tonight has been disabled, so please use that Q&A box. Closed captions are also available by clicking on the icon at the bottom of your screen. We will also have a couple of polling questions that will appear on the screen during the presentation. Your input is valued and helpful as we move forward in the study. I will now turn it over to our project manager, Cherie, to start our meeting.
Thank you, Genevieve, and thank you all for joining us on phase 2 of Empower Baton Rouge. I'm Cherie Swallow. I'm the Director of Planning and Program Development for CATS, and thank you again for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us for this virtual listening session. We want to hear you. We want to hear what you have to say. This is the second phase of this project. Back in September, we were out talking to people and eliciting your feedback for what we want to hear, how we can improve our transit system. So let's get on to it. We don't have a poll question yet, do we? Not yet. Okay. So next slide, please. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about the study overview, the existing conditions, the barriers to mobility, our outreach efforts, what we've done, some of the proposed solutions that we've seen, heard from you, and to make sure that we're on the right track in engagement opportunities. But as always, there might be some more solutions. There might be some more barriers that we're not hearing and we're not seeing. So we need to hear that from you. Next slide, please. So this is our team. Myself, Brandon Sanji, and Jada Davis are from CATS. Linda Lockhart is our consultant, mainly staff augmentation from One Atlas, and the WSP team. They're our consultant team, and Stephanie Bowe make up the remainder of the team to really get out and to make this a project that makes sense. This is not a planning project that will sit on the shelves. From here, we are going to have a list of projects that we will incorporate into a capital plan and or take to other agencies such as the city parish or DOTD, and to say, we have data now, please make some of these improvements based on the input that we've heard from the citizens and the data that we've gathered. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the study overview. You can go on. Next. So, you know, we provide transit service in Baton Rouge and Baker. We have we have bus routes, we have paratransit service. We also have a microtransit service in Baker, Louisiana, which is also part of our service. We finalized a comprehensive operational analysis in 22 to look at all of our fixed route bus service, basically the bus service, to how can we make it better. And we heard a lot, we had input, we had public meetings on that. So, but we had a different type of public meeting. We have a big service area. We've done a lot of pre-COVID, our annual passenger miles were much higher. We're bouncing back on post-COVID. Things have changed post-COVID. So this study is really important because we have to take another look at how our landscape, how people travel in this post-COVID world. Next slide, please. So our purpose is to really go into those areas where the most vulnerable citizens live, the areas of persistent poverty, and go into the areas and talk to people, not just the politicians, not just the people who are influential, but the people who actually use our system and hear from them to understand, are we on the right track? What else is important to them? And that includes sidewalks, lighting, safety issues, um, access to food deserts, whatever it is. How can we not only what can we do as a transit agency, but how can we be maybe an advocate for some of these? And as we get involved in this study and some other organizations, we become your advocate too. So it's not just a neighborhood group or a small group of citizens. You have us also as an advocate to say this area needs this. We are here to, we're part of the community, is what I'm saying. We want to identify those barriers. We want to help develop the solutions for transit mobility, as well as anything that can help better your neighborhoods and make it just better, make it safer, make it so the quality of life, it's just more equitable across the board. And we'll have a final report that then will be that springboard for our capital improvement plan and in the other agencies. Next slide. So our study goals, of course, collaborate with the communities, identify the barriers, solutions, and reconnect those barriers with, recommend the solutions that meet the community's needs, not our needs. It's not about cats, it's about the community's needs. We're not coming in here with our idea of what needs to be done. We're coming in here with what you need to be done. Our job is to identify the funding and the timeline to build the solutions. Some of these solutions might be a bit further out, and some of these solutions might be fairly easy. We don't know, but we want to at least be able to gather everything together and to collaborate with the Metropolitan Planning Organization or the state or whatever group that we need to get these barriers, break them down and make it improve the access to transit and other things. Next slide. So just a little bit of the federal government. This is what they consider area persistent poverty. 20% or more of the population lived in poverty. It's a big chunk of Baton Rouge. Baton Rouge is a majority minority population. That doesn't mean anything, but everybody, except that everybody needs equitable services. And that's the key to it. Everybody deserves equitable service on the transit side. And part of our goals is to get direct service for people, that one seat service to the best of our ability for our citizens. Fast service, convenient service, safe service with good passenger amenities and to get you where you need to go. And we want to make sure that we're delivering that to our citizens. Next slide, please. So here we are. We're at the anticipated schedule. We have our community engagement. We had something in September. We're here now in March. We've identified our existing conditions. We've developed some proposed solutions. We're bringing them back to you to talk. We're going to talk about it. You'll hear it in a little bit. Then we're going to analyze the projects and come back with recommendations. And again, that's just recommendations. But even after we're done with this study, we don't want the conversation to end. We want to continue the conversation. We want to hear from you. So my goal also is to continue this collaboration, continue these conversations, continue this. You tell us what you're seeing in your community, and we want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. If we don't know what we're not doing right, we cannot fix it. We need to hear. We can't have people, oh, you're doing perfect. We want to hear the bad stuff. We got to fix it. We have to you're our customer base. You're the people that matter to us. And we want to make sure we're doing the very best we can for the people who need us. So remember that. And I'm always available. I have an open door. We only have 2 people in our planning department at CATS, myself and Brandon Sanji, but we have open doors and we want to hear, we want to talk, we want that relationship with the community. It's very important to us and to our agency as a whole. Next slide. Am I at the end of my slide? So I'm going to turn it over to Rachel, I guess. Do we have a question now? A poll question? No? Okay. I'll let then you guys can take it away from me.
Thank you so much, Sherry. So I'm going to take us through a brief recap. No problem. So I'm going to take us through a brief recap from the progress made in phase 1 that includes the existing conditions review, some of the findings, and our first round of engagement. So next slide, please. So the existing conditions involve reviewing a variety of data to better understand the transit service and riders within the AOPP census tracts. So along with understanding the condition of physical infrastructure that exists for folks using transit as well. So here are some things that stood out to us as 3 key barriers. So when looking at bus stops that exist and what is in place at those bus stops today, we found that 60% of CATS bus stops are within the AOPP census tracts. So the majority of stops are within our study area. And of those, about 900 stops, only 9% have a shelter, only 1 in 5 have seating, but the majority, so about 71%, have no passenger amenities at all. We then looked at the pedestrian facilities, so whether or not there are sidewalks and crosswalks within the AOPP study area that could help riders get to and from transit. And we found that 59% of all the streets within the AOPP study area do not have sidewalks, and 43% of all the signalized intersections, so these are the ones with traffic lights, do not have sidewalks at these intersections or crosswalks to help pedestrians safely cross the street. And then we also looked at available crash data and unfortunately found that for the entire East Baton Rouge Parish, 57% of crashes that involve pedestrians occurred within our study area. And then finally, in looking at the existing CAT service, there are no routes that run more often than every 30 minutes, and most routes run every hour. So there are also very few direct routes that take riders from the north portion of our study area, where there's a large number of AOPP census tracts, to commercial and medical destinations like Our Lady of the Lake, which is in the southern part of the parish. Next slide, please. We then took the barriers we could see from the data and research in September through a series of listening sessions, We really engaged with community members and asked them what their experience was and what challenges they face. And this list shows the combination of those efforts. So we identified 9 key barriers to mobility, and these surrounded the topics of street conditions, pedestrian infrastructure, bus service, including frequency, reliability, and directness, bus stops, including shelters, seating, and lighting, bus route connections, affordable housing, and bus fare. So these next slides are a summary of our outreach we've done. I'm just going to quickly going to highlight our first phase of engagement that we conducted between a 3-month period between August and October of last year. It was a combination of surveys, social media posts, listening sessions, and stakeholder meetings. We had 4 in-person listening sessions across the parish. We also held some pop-up events, including at the CATS terminal. And we had a good turnout between these events and some really good conversations with community members. But we were also able to reach a larger number through our survey, and we received a whopping 158 responses, so that's exciting. Next slide, please. One takeaway from the first phase of engagement was hearing from the community about what improvements would make them more likely to use CATS. So to summarize the top improvements that we heard from the community, these include buses arriving more often, having better amenities at stops, and finally, more sidewalks connecting from neighborhoods. But that about wraps up our recap from phase 1. And we have a quick poll question for y'all based on what we just discussed. Should I pop up here in a second? Okay, so on a scale of 1 to 5, How much do you agree with this input, that this input captures the most important transit needs? 1 being strongly disagree and 5 being strongly agree. We'll just give you all a couple minutes to go ahead and answer. Okay. Thank you so much. Go ahead and end this poll. And with that, I will pass it over to Morven to talk about some solutions.
Thanks so much, Doris. So now we're at a really key, a really important part of the project, which is to identify solutions to the barriers faced by the communities that we're serving. Next slide, please. First, we heard loud and clear from the communities in our prior listening sessions. Together with our research, this showed that bus passengers have difficulty walking to the bus stops in Baton Rouge, to the CAT stops. And so the solution is to close what we call those sidewalk gaps, to build new sidewalks to help passengers safely, comfortably, and easily get to the bus stops to access the transit services that they need. We know that ADA accessible bus stops are a priority for CATS, and they are currently working to implement a new program to construct ADA pads, bus pads. Those are appropriately sized and graded so that passengers with disabilities or really any passenger experiencing mobility issues is able to access transit services. Next slide, please. Continuing to think about solutions to address the barrier of inadequate pedestrian infrastructure, the solution here is to add crosswalks to access bus stops. And these are especially important at intersections where often conflicts between vehicles and people can occur. Where we have signalized intersections, and as Doris mentioned, that's just an intersection that has traffic signals, there's a big opportunity to add push buttons here where the pedestrian can activate the button, the vehicle traffic stops completely to enable passengers to safely cross the road and get to the bus stops. Next slide, please. We also heard loud and clear from communities that improved amenities at bus stops is really important to them. So here we're looking at adding really a designated space that's recognizable to members of the public, to passengers, and to operators so that we really know that this is a CATS bus stop with enough space to comfortably wait there for your bus. You can see on the diagram here an example of some amenities which are improvements, and those have shelter from the elements. There's seating options. Often we can add a trash can so that the area is kept relatively clean and tidy. Bike racks can be added for any passengers who are using bikes to get to the buses. And lighting. We also know it's really important to have bright and well-lit spaces so that passengers, especially in the evening and nighttime hours, can feel safer and more comfortable waiting for the bus. CATS is also working on implementing real-time arrival signage at the bus stops. So these are monitors that inform passengers of where's my ride, when is the next bus arriving, and it can also contain route information. This can really be helpful with passengers who are transferring and making connections on multiple routes. Next slide, please. One overall solution and recommendation is for CATS to continue to coordinate with other current ongoing improvement projects, which are Move and Build Baton Rouge. And we also know it's really important to keep communicating with the city's housing authority to build that connection between safe and affordable housing and transit services. Move BR is a significant investment program in East Baton Rouge that's going to improve roadways and sidewalks, and these improvements will help benefit CATS passengers. So it's important to make sure that the coordination occurs between our project, Empower Baton Rouge, and the other ongoing improvement projects. Next slide. Lastly, we talked earlier about some of the challenges around the frequency of the buses, how often the bus is coming to collect passengers, and the community's desire to have more frequent and more reliable service. CATS developed a comprehensive operational assessment recently in 2022, which provides a 10-year roadmap for service improvements. And CATS is beginning implementation of some of those recommendations this summer. That includes reducing the overall size of the transit network to help improve service of some of the more popular and highest ridership routes, and making some route changes. So again, some of those high ridership routes can become faster and more efficient. And the recommendations also include adding some new routes. One of those is the Planck-Nicholson Bus Rapid Transit Service, which will be a premium transit service which runs directly through our study area and will benefit passengers in East Baton Rouge. So with that, we are going to view a short video.
The Capital Area Transit System is working to provide community-led solutions to transit barriers for residents in CATS service area. Through the Empower Baton Rouge study, CATS staff met with communities to better understand transit needs, and we heard you loud and clear. Pedestrians need sidewalks to connect to bus stops, which many of our current stops lack. To improve access, we want to add sidewalk connections to and from bus stops, making your trips easier and safer.
Currently, many roads do not provide safe pedestrian crossings near bus stops. To help you reach your bus stop safely, we want to create easy-to-find places to cross the street. By adding flashing signals and crosswalks at the middle of the block or street corners, drivers will know you are crossing the street. High visibility markings, crosswalks, and flashing beacons are some of the ways we can help you reach your destination.
All bus stops should be made ADA accessible. Currently, bus stops that are not ADA accessible can prevent riders with physical, sensory, or mental challenges from using our services. To ensure ADA access, CATS plans to build passenger bus stop pads to provide easier access for riders boarding and exiting buses. Stops need to be a bright, comfortable, and easily found waiting area. Currently, the lack of shelters and seating leave our riders exposed to the sun, rain, and other elements without rest. Our stops also do not have enough lighting to keep riders visible during the evening and low light conditions. To improve your trip and keep you safe, we want to add benches, shelters, and lights to make the stop and you visible to bus drivers. Bus stops could also have trash bins.
Riders need to know when the next bus will arrive and leave, and where the bus is going. To keep you on schedule, we want to add real-time arrival signage. The signage will show arrival times, stop locations, and other information to help you reach your destination. As part of this study, CATS will continue to work with the Baton Rouge Housing Authority to help connect transit to safe and affordable housing. Together with housing partners, we will plan new service changes that provide more service and connections to housing developments.
To provide new and existing services, CATS developed a comprehensive operational assessment, also called a COA, to serve as a roadmap over the next 10 years. To meet this goal, CATS will improve service on the most popular routes by reducing the size of our transit network, make trip times faster by making the routes more efficient, add new bus routes including the Planck-Nicholson BRT and other routes. The Empower Baton Rouge study will continue to support these improvements and more. Learn more about our recommendations and how you can get involved by visiting our website.
Okay, and we should now have another poll question that should be coming up on your screen. So our second question would encourage you all to answer, please. So again, on a scale of 1 to 5, how important do you think these proposed solutions are for the community? And 1 is where you strongly agree, and 5 is where you strongly, 1 is where you strongly disagree, 5 is where you strongly agree. So again, how important do you think these solutions are for the community? 1, you disagree, 5, you strongly agree. Thanks for participating.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was waiting for poll results, but so our next few slides are just going to be how you can engage to help us with this survey and to complete the study. As you know, we started our survey in February 26th, and we have our survey on our website. It's at brcats.com, and there's a tab that says News. And we have an entire page dedicated to Empower Baton Rouge. So I definitely encourage you all to check that out. Our survey is there, and it's there until March 29th. So we've got a few more days, a couple more weeks actually. And today we're here having our virtual session. And then we'll have another one at our terminal on March 19th, if you don't mind going to the next slide. March 19th at our terminal, by the way, is 2250 Florida Boulevard at 5 to 7 p.m. We'll have our team there to answer questions, to share, any information that we found. If you have any questions about what you've seen so far today, you can definitely ask us there, and we'll be very grateful to expound on those things. What we really want to ask you guys to do is help us to get the word out about this. It's not just for people who, use the bus system. It's for people who want to in the future, or who have in the past and, maybe stopped for some reason. So if you can help us share this survey. And then our next slide kind of tells you ways that you could help us reach out to people. Again, I said our website. We have an email address. It's news@brcats.com. And then lastly, of course, you can always stop by our terminal, 2250 Florida Boulevard. We'll actually give our front desk lady some surveys, and you can get a survey there. And if you want to take it there and submit it at the same time, that's perfectly fine. But we really, really need help with getting the word out about this study, because it's going to help us improve public transit and maybe get us some new riders, and maybe encourage people to use it, and which all around is a better ordeal for CATS and for Baton Rouge. So I'm going to turn it on over to Miss Sheila, I believe.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Do we have any questions, Genevieve, that you've seen so far?
We do not have any questions yet, but I know we had a couple of questions that we've heard frequently, so we can go ahead and get started. And a reminder to our attendees again, if you want to put your questions in the chat box, we will read those off, or comments. Or if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand and we will make sure that we call upon you. Thank you.
So Genevieve, before you jump away from me here, could you share some of the responses to the poll questions, please?
Yes. So for the question where we asked, on a scale of 1 to 5, how important do you think these proposed solutions are for the community? We had all of our participants tonight answer number 4, so they agree. And then for question 1, let me just pull that up here. That was the on a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you agree that this input captures the most important transit needs? And all of our attendees tonight answered 5, so they strongly agree with the proposed solution, or sorry, not the proposed solutions. They strongly agree with the input that we had received and what we heard.
Excellent, excellent. That's good for us to hear. Not that our jobs are done, right? That's excellent for us to hear, though. So if there's no questions from the group here, we've had some questions from other sessions that we had, and we thought we'd kind of share them, and then we can expand on people that inquired on some other components of our study. So how long will it take for these improvements to be implemented? When can we expect construction to begin? And Cherie, I would like to pass that on to you, please.
So it depends on the actual improvement, if you will. Some of these can be very easy. Right now, we're evaluating all of our bus stops. So you'll see a definite change in how many bus stops we have out. Some of the bus stops aren't even being used, and we'll be pouring concrete landing pads for wheelchairs, and we have new signs coming. That's going to take a little bit of time, but on our busier routes, you're going to see more activity. The bus rapid transit project will start. You'll be seeing some construction activity at least starting in early summer on the stations in the corridor, and hopefully in our new North Transit center in that's at Airline and McClellan that we're going to start building. So there's going to be activity starting. Some of the other things like sidewalks and lighting and crosswalks, we'll have to go to the city. There, Florida Boulevard, there are plans for some crosswalks and actually some mid-block crosswalks. So that'll be, I think they're going to start that in 25. Again, there's a lot of moving parts, and we're working with the city in the movie BR and then independently from all of that. And it all depends on funding. So as we get finished with this project and see what we can do, we will apply for grants. We will look for money and see how we could program it through the years. Right now we're working on our 5-year capital plan, and have we fit this into the BRT and we've got another large project we're going to be working on, but we know that all of this is a priority and we've got some catching up to do. So
on a good note, why don't you talk just a little bit, maybe Brandon could talk about this. One of the recent successes about the signage, and you've got some new news coverage recently from that. So Brandon, would you like to talk about that for a few minutes?
Absolutely. We have officially launched our newest bus tracking app. It is called My Stop. It is available for download in the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store. This allows passengers to have real-time information in the palm of their hands. You're also able to plan your trip using Google Maps. It is integrated into the app. You can see service alerts for bus stop closures, detours, holiday services, if the service is delayed or if it is canceled. We have also successfully installed real-time arrival signage at our CATS terminal, which sees more routes and more ridership, more boardings than any other location in the CATS system. So that way, while you are waiting at our terminal for your connection, you're able to look up at the screen in the monitors and see the next departure for the route that you are waiting on, as well as some fun facts that show up on some of the screens and monitors at the terminal. We're hoping that this information really does allow passengers to become a little bit more independent in their lives when using CATS services as part of our motto.
Great. Thank you, Brandon. I'm going to call on Jada for the next question. I know someone who can't join the in-person listening sessions. How can I share this information with them so that they can still be involved, and maybe expound upon a little bit about the upcoming pop-up events?
Okay, so if that person has email, I can definitely email them directly the link to take the survey, and I can also email them the PDF to see our flyers that have a lot of the information, which most of it is on our website. I can send a link to our website as well. I'll be glad to do that for my personal email. If you just give me their contact information, email. If mail is easier, I can send out mail too. And then also phone number is an option too. They can call the generic CATS number and somebody will connect them to me. The engagement opportunities coming up, we have one it's a Thursday, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, people. March 19th from 5 to 7. It's a really good opportunity to meet the people that you see today, and you can just have a chat with us, and hopefully we can discover some more issues or discover some more findings that you have seen, and we can hopefully find a solution for those.
So the in-person meeting for next week is on Tuesday, Jada? I know all the weeks kind of fall in together, don't they? And that will be at 4:30. So that's an opportunity for people to join. How does the overall control of some proposed solutions such as crosswalk, sidewalks, and traffic signaling get handled since you don't have ultimate control? I think, Sherry, I'm gonna punt this one to you again, please.
So that is under the control of the city, parish, and DOTD, depending on the road and who owns the road. So some of the roads are like Florida is owned by DOTD under their control, and some of the roadway is owned by the city, parish. So, but we'll have to go to both of those entities. But fortunately, what we have been doing is creating those relationships with the city, parish, and DOTD, and I'm not going to say teach them transit operations, but create more of a collaborative relationship that we're right there with them, and they understand the importance of transit and working together. And so when you do that, when you show that you want to work with them and be a partner, and they understand the importance of not only transit, but all sorts of active transportation, pedestrian, bicycles, motorized scooters, whatever it might be. We all work together to make it safe and easy for people to get around. And that's what we're seeing. A lot of the improvements on Florida for us is coming through the Move EBR project. And they're doing it as they're doing the improvements on Florida. They're just rolling what we need into that. So I'm pretty confident that the city is going to be very open. And again, with them, like anything else, it's going to be about the money and programming it. But I think if you have the data and we find that there are neighborhoods or areas that are busier than anybody realized and has a need for more lighting, better sidewalks, crosswalks, we can make that case and we can ask them to prioritize that area and maybe move it up in their CIP quicker than they might normally would.
So I believe Ben has his hand up. So if we could take him off of mute, we'd love to hear from him.
Hi. I'm can you hear me?
Yes, Ben, we can.
Yes, we can. Hi.
Hi. I ride my bike and I take the bus like on days where it's raining. So it's helpful to know about like the app that keeps track. But I also saw that you were gonna have improvements for the bus stops that include like bike racks and stuff. And I was wondering if you had more plans for including like accessibility for bikes. Because sometimes the sidewalks just like, even when there are sidewalks, the sidewalks getting to the bus stops are terrible. So I was wondering if you could speak more on that.
I think Brandon has his hand up, so I think he would like to chime in.
Right, so I will throw in my opinion on that one. So as far as the amenities for bikes at bus stops, we do plan to have bike racks and locks at our BRT stations along Plank Road, Nicholson Drive. I do appreciate you for riding, and I do encourage you to download my stop. That's very appreciative. And I believe that we are looking towards new buses that are being delivered will have 3 bike racks on the buses. And I believe that there is a bike master plan. I cannot recall the agency that owns that. I'll throw that one to Cherie. That does detail some multi-use trails, dedicated biking lanes, some sharrows, I believe. I know they're not very popular here. But that's the bike racks at the BRT stations and the bike racks on our buses are something that we control, but we can always let other agencies know, like our Metropolitan Planning Organization or the city parish or the state DOTD, know that we do have a increase or a great community of bus and bike riders that combine 2 different modes of transportation that may need a little bit of a boost and help in their community getting to and from bus stops.
And we do work with Bike Baton Rouge as well. And I think it's Breck. It's Breck that has the bike ped master plan that they've been working on. But at the sidewalks go back to the city parish. They're in control of that. So if there's specific areas that the sidewalks aren't the greatest, and you see that a lot of people are using them to walk and bike, that would be good to know, because then we could take that information to the city and say, hey, you guys, this is part of the feedback we're getting. Do you have this area programmed in any time in your capital improvement plan? And what can you do for these folks? Things like that, because we're hearing a little bit of that in other listening sessions. People are pointing out that people are having to cross in the middle, and that kind of information is valuable as well, because not only does that help our riders, it helps the people who live in the area. Just if they're walking, it all feeds in to make the neighborhood a better place to live and safer.
And Ben, we always encourage, we thank you for joining the session.
Yeah.
We always encourage, I'm a big bike rider too, and bike enthusiast. So we all gather together, right? That love of biking, is to, reach out to your friends and talk to them about, what challenges you have, share that information with us. Where do you get on with, your bikes, and where do you get off? Is helpful for us to know where those key points are. So, the more voices we can hear, the better that we can look at the overall picture of the system itself. So we thank you for joining us, Ben, and asking the question. It was a very good question. Okay. I don't see any other questions. So at this point in time, Sherry, if you want to close out the session.
Sure. Just a thank you again for joining us. Our door is always open here at CATS. We'd love to come talk to you, meet you in person. Sometimes it's hard to talk virtually, but come out to the in-person meeting on March 19th, and don't stop with the in-person meeting. Don't stop with these planned sessions. We have all of our meetings, our committee meetings and our board meetings are public meetings. The public is invited. Be an advocate. Come learn how we do things. Then you can be our advocate too, how we can improve and how we can get more funding, because unfortunately it does all come down to the money. I hate to be that way, but it is. But anytime you can be an advocate for a better transit system, that helps in a lot of ways that you may not be aware of. So thank you again. Any question, anything you want to know, we're here to help you explain to it how we do things, how it works. And thanks again for attending. I think that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.